So far, we've talked about intelligent transportation, intelligent vehicles, and also the benefits of moving into this new direction of autonomous and driverless vehicles. So let's look at slide 17, which is some of the market dynamics that are also driving the push to move into this new era. So an average American commuter now spends 250 hours a year behind the wheel of a vehicle. And this causes a lot of congestion, a lot of wasted fuel, and a stress to the individual. Hours behind the wheel equates to lost productivity, lost time pursuing other interests, and lost serenity. As those commuters inch along during rush hour traffic, they drive in circles around city streets looking for parking spaces. And according to a report published by the MIT Media Lab, in congested urban areas, about 40% of total gasoline use is in cars looking for parking spots. So from 1960 to 2010, the number of vehicles has tripled and has gone from 74.4 million to 250.2 million. So the number of vehicles is ever increasing, with the number of people commuting to work and driving alone. By 2050, person miles traveled will increase by 500 billion annually. And if you factor in the population growth, that number actually goes to 1 trillion. And that translates to 3 to 4 trillion additional vehicle miles. The impact on our infrastructure is tremendous. We can spend billions on new roads, light rail, and infrastructure, or make a smaller investment in communication technology to allow more vehicles to operate more intelligently. So, how do we want to spend our money? Our infrastructure is crumbling, and either we put billions and trillions of dollars into redoing that infrastructure, or we find a better way for people to commute and be mobile. However, none of this comes without barriers, and I want to take a look at some of those barriers. So, first of all, this is new technology. It's not cheap. So the car industry has to embrace the new cost as well as the consumer. And then we have varying degrees of consumer trust in the technology. There are acceptable social proofs that might assist in shifting people's behavior. But right now, there's a lot of mistrust of this new technology. So we need to find what it would motivate people to more embrace this new technology. And another area that seems to be a couple areas is privacy, data protection. This falls under the Federal Trade Commission, and they're actively involved in looking at the impact of all the data that is being collected and how it will be used, who owns it, what can be done with that data. It's a concern of our population. Cybersecurity is another huge concern. As we move into more and more technology, more things can be hacked. I don't know if any of you have seen, there's been a couple of videos out there about people hacking into autonomous vehicles and taking over the control of the vehicle. And that's truly a concern. Government involvement will help to assure the sharing of, as we solve these problems or improve the systems, we need to make sure that each of the manufacturers share that information instead of holding it and trying to compete against each other. It's an environment where sharing and openness needs to be in order to move things forward. As in any major technological advance, there is a shift in the job industry. Not many, if any, research has been done on the impact to the driving industry. It is a case of disruptive technology versus society. Do we not move forward just because we have displacement and certain industries that will lose jobs? If we look back to the banking industry and the introduction of the ATM, there was fear that a majority of the bank tellers would be out of jobs. But what in fact happened was that the introduction of the ATM, it actually created many new jobs and roles within the bank, but also the manufacturing of the ATMs, the collection and the placement of the money in the machine, and many other aspects ancillary to the actual ATM machine. And an example might be that with the introduction of platooning commercial trucks, so that we only need one driver in the lead truck and no driver in the vehicles that are platooned behind him, can be controlled by, and even that truck might be that we don't even need a driver in the front, that it can be controlled remotely. So, and it can handle up to 30 trucks. This is an industry that is already struggling getting enough truck drivers, and the industry is growing tremendously because of the shift to e-commerce. So yes, there may be a threat to the truck drivers that are currently out there, but we have a huge shortage, and there may be ways to solve that shortage, and those that are in that industry, retrain them. Who would better know how to remotely control a truck than somebody that's had the experience and knows how it handles on the road? Societal impact includes looking at areas beyond the automotive industry. How will it impact the taxicab industry, auto insurance, public safety, and urbanization? There are also bigger questions when it comes to moral and ethical considerations, like those that I had you watch in the TED discussion. Liability, who's at fault when there's an accident? Who do we hold accountable? All these are things that need to be considered, need to be addressed. As we continue to move forward with the technology itself, there's societal issues that all have to be addressed, and we need to be active and think about these and get the right people involved and start discussing how we take these forward, what laws need to be put into place, what regulations need to be put into place. These are all things that are definitely barriers to entry, but things that are worth tackling.